So here I have a 2006 Jeep Liberty. It's here for both front upper control arms, both front lower ball joints, and a front left wheel bearing. Everything on the front right side I already did it. The front left side is the only side that's getting the wheel bearing. Let's go ahead and get this party started. So the first thing I want to zip off is the outer tie rod so that we could actually move the knuckle back and forth. So now that this is out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and remove the caliper, and we could hang this up so it's not in the way anymore. So on the front right side, I was complaining about how the caliper and anything brake related, all the bolts for it were extremely loose. I talked to the owner, I asked him where did he take the car to get the brakes done. He told me where. I'm not really gonna mention any names, but let's just say they did a shitty job. The brake caliper bolts were extremely loose. Let's see how this side is. Just gonna use a regular ratchet. Let's see if it's tight. Look, no effort at all. See, this is what I'm talking about. Trust the Midas touch. Go ahead and remove the caliper first because these brake pads are gonna fall out of here regardless, so it has to come apart. They did not use a hardware kit. They did not try to clean up any rust or anything. The pads are in here bouncing around, and I'll show you as soon as I get this caliper off. Come on. My battery's low on the Milwaukee. Time to change that out. So let's get this out of here. Let's see if I could put this right here for now. No hardware kit, and the pads are free to bounce around. Yesterday I talked to the owner. I told him these brakes must be making a ton of noise every time you push the brake pedal. And he said, yeah, now that you mention it, they do make noise every time I hit the brake. So let's get these pads out here because they're gonna end up falling off. And if you look down here, there's a ton of rust on the bottom, up top, everywhere on the caliper bracket. So let me find something to hang up this caliper and we'll move on. And one more thing is, you can tell they didn't really service the slide pins properly. The bottom one still moves, but it's feeling a little bit gritty. And the top one, it's pretty well locked in place. Anyway, let's go ahead and zip off this bracket. So as you can see, the rotor looks almost perfect on both sides. You could tell it's a pretty new rotor. The pads themselves look like they're brand new practically. Sweet. So far everything's coming apart real nice, just like the other side. The only thing that looks more of a pain in the butt is the upper control arm to get to the bolts from underneath the hood. It looks like it's a little bit more troublesome on the front left side. See if this fits in here. Kinda, but not really. Let's see if we could get it moving. Always make sure you can get your tool off. Don't back yourself into a corner. I probably should just go get my swivel, but I think it'll work. All right, actually, let's go ahead and put this on here for like one thread. Pull out the air hammer again, and we'll give it the salsa. Is it Eric O that started saying give it the beans? I don't know if it originated from him, but everyone's saying it. I feel like at this point, it's like copyrighted or something. So, I'm Hispanic. We're gonna have to say we're gonna give it the salsa. See if we can knock this free. There goes the nut. Yeah, it doesn't really want to thread in too well. It's got a ton of junk on the threads. Alright, let's get the pickle fork. Alright, that's good enough. Let's get the air hammer again. See if this does anything. Probably not. There it goes. Sometimes you just gotta keep throwing things at it and see what sticks. There is no one tool for everything. Just go ahead and knock the CV shaft through one more time, just to kind of loosen it up. There you go. I am not too concerned about this harness. I'm gonna just go ahead and cut it off right here because the new wheel bearing has a new sensor attached to it, so it's not a big issue. It feels wrong, doesn't it? Just like, even though you know you have a new sensor, it just feels wrong cutting it. Why? I'm just joking. So CV shaft is pretty much free. So let's go ahead and zip off.
Lower nut.
And probably gonna end up using a pickle fork again for that lower ball joint. Go ahead and get this out of here. Come on. Boom. Yeah, this wheel bearing is real bad. Okay, so this is going to be a E14, and sorry, do not have impact sockets of these type. All I have is the chrome, so it's what we're going to use an impact gun. Don't worry, it's only 3/8. I don't even know if this thing has enough juice to zip these things out. Let's find out. Nope. Granted, the battery is low, but I don't think a fresh battery is going to make a difference. You know what, the hell with it. Let's try a new battery. Fresh new battery. Let's go ahead and give it the salsa. Yes, I'm gonna keep saying it. Eventually to catch on. I'm sure to catch on. A lot of people is gonna start saying it. Watch, you'll see. You know, at least 5 people are gonna say it. If not, like 2 people are gonna be saying it, so that's all that matters. Yeah, just as I suspected, it's not gonna do it. So what I'm going to do is the unspeakable. I'm gonna go ahead and put a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter on this bad boy, and we'll use the big gun to take it off. You know what, let's try the nano first. That's what I'm talking about. Oh. Yes. Giving it the salsa. Let's place our bets now. Is this wheel bearing gonna fall right out? I don't know. Let's try the air hammer. Alright, so it's not the best setup, but let's see if it works. Doesn't seem like it wants to move. I think I do see it starting to separate on this side. Let's go ahead and spray it down real fast. Okay, so it's definitely moving. I could see it cracked open on this side. I kind of hit the boss right there where the bolt goes just a little bit. I deformed the metal, so try to stay away from that. Not a big issue. I almost smashed my face right into the camera. And this is why you don't do sketchy stuff like this. Don't worry, I'm not hurt. I think I'm all set up here. Let's go ahead and see if this ball joint will press out. Now I actually have the stud of the ball joint going into the forcing screw. It's kind of way that I found that this works. I did the same thing on the front right side. Let's see if this one will pop out without too much of a fight. Now on the front right side, I got to the same point and it felt like it didn't want to move. So I grabbed the air hammer and started hitting right here, and it was able to create enough vibrations so the ball joint could go through. So let's try that. It's a lot more difficult than it looks, okay? I think it's moving. There you go. Bob's your auntie. That bad boy is out. Alright, at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and, clean up the surface right here where the new ball joint's gonna go. I'm also gonna clean up the surface of where the new wheel bearing is gonna go. All right, that should be good enough. Just gonna put a smear of anti-seize inside of this bore, and then we'll hit this face where the wheel bearing goes with some CRC to protect it from any future rust. I'm gonna go ahead and press in the ball joint before I put the wheel bearing on. All right, so I'm not gonna show you guys setting this thing up because it's a balancing act. Try to do all of this and it's embarrassing. So anyway, here's the idea. This cup is gonna sit right here. It fits perfectly on this end of the ball joint, so we're not pressing directly on the ball joint, or we're not pressing on the center either. And then this cup fits well over the boot and the ball joint itself, so it's not going to interfere with anything. It even gives us a little window so we could see the ball joint moving, and it's deep enough that we have enough clearance for the ball joint to get pressed in. So I hope all of that makes sense. And this one does have a Zerk fitting. It goes right there, and I got it angled out this way so that once it's pressed in, you could actually get to the Zerk fitting to add grease in the future if you ever needed to. I think we're all set up here, so let's go ahead and start pressing it in. I don't know if you guys can notice this, but it does look like it's going in pretty even. You know, for the sake of helping it, a little bit of penetrating fluid right there. Doesn't really matter, it's got the anti-seize on it already, but it seems to be going in nicely. All right, that's it. Looks like it's all bottomed out. Let me double check it. Maybe a few more for good measure. And that's it. Looks really good to me. Just gonna go ahead and clean up the mess of anti-seize. But yeah, went in pretty nice. So I put the Zerk fitting on the ball joint. I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a few pumps of grease right now. My grease gun actually has a brand new container of grease in it. I just put it in yesterday when I was doing the front right side. All right, so that should be good enough, just a few pumps. That looks really good to me. And this should sit in here just like that and falls right into place, no issues at all. So I'm gonna put just a dab of blue thread locker on these bolts and we'll run them in. All right, so I got the 3 bolts in it. Everything's nice and torqued down, it's good to go. I hit each bolt on the wire wheel to clean up any rust that was sitting on them, and I put some blue thread locker on them, and they're all tightened down now, and this thing's ready to go back on the car. So as far as the upper control arm, the bolts are kind of a pain in the butt to get to. The front right side was much easier. So I ended up removing the battery tray, and this fuse panel, just kind of move it out the way. So with the battery tray out of the way, you can see I got great access to this front bolt right here, which is going to be a walk in the park, no issue. The other one is back down there behind this ABS unit and behind the steering shaft. So I have not figured out what I'm going to do about that. All right, so here's a new tool that I picked up. It's a Klein like digital angle finder thingamajigger. I'm not sure what it's called, but I thought I could use it for things like this, like upper and lower control arms, where I want to get the angle of the old original part before I start moving it, and you know, get the new one on, because you want these things to be in the correct place so that when you bolt everything down, you're not stressing the bushings and they wear out quickly. So I hope all that makes sense. So what I did here is, you can see the upper control arm is in its natural resting place. That's where it stops right there. And you can see if I raise it up, it changes the angle. If I bring it further down than it normally is, it changes the angle. But if I just kind of leave it alone, it keeps coming right back to, you can see we're at 5.6 degrees. So it stopped right there. And of course there's nothing influencing it, it's just where this thing wants to naturally sit. So if I take that measurement and just write it down, so 5.6, 5.7, you can see it's gonna vary a little bit. And then when I put the new arm on it, as long as I get it right back within or close enough to that range of 5.6, 5.7, somewhere around there, then it's okay to go ahead and tighten down the bolts. And we know it's gonna be in the correct place because that's where the original control arm is at. All right, so the first one, it goes right here. I got that one out. But when you try to pull the bolt out, which is this thing right here, when you try to pull it out, it hits this freaking brake line, which is, come on, Jeep, really? So I have to go on the other side to remove a bolt, and it lets you move the brake line in just a little bit. You can see that right there, how it moves. And then it gives you enough clearance to get this out of here. The next one, there's absolutely no space to get anything back there. So I just came in with a short 18 mil socket with two extensions. One of them has a ball end on it to get a little bit of wiggle room as far as the angle that I'm at. And you can see I'm just gonna go ahead and put my impact gun right here, and hopefully I could zip it out from way over here. So that seems like the best bet, and let's see if it works. Here goes our prize, and this ball joint is shot. Now some of you may have noticed the spring is broken right here. I pointed this out to the owner last week, and it just wasn't in the budget to change this, so we're not doing anything with this right now. You can see right now would be the ideal time to change it, but it's not going to happen. Alright guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm actually amazed because I guess I lined this one up perfectly. I grabbed the bolt and fed it in from the backside just how it's supposed to go, and it slid all the way in perfectly. No hiccups at all. So I'm like, man, I had that thing dead on. And then the front one over here, can you guys see me? Yeah, the front one over here, I just grabbed a tapered punch and I had to align it just a hair. The bolt went right in it. This thing has both of its bolts in place. And now we could try to get our angle before we go ahead and tighten this thing down. Here's that grease fitting I was talking about. I don't have the type of adapter to put grease into these type. So I removed the zerk fitting off of the lower ball joint. I'm gonna screw it into here just so I could pump grease into here, and then I'll switch them back. All right, so I got the bolt that goes right here, just snug, not real tight. It's just enough pressure to put tension on the arm, but not enough to lock it in place. And the one back here is still completely loose. So at this point, you can see if we put our gauge on it, we're at 9.1, whereas before on the old arm, it was like 5.7. So what we could do is just kind of move it up a little bit, see where it lands. Okay, so somewhere right there is really close. It's right in the ballpark of where the old arm was at. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it down right there. So I hope this makes sense. Like I said before, I'm sure someone's gonna leave a comment below saying how this is not a legitimate way of doing this, and you're gonna point out all the flaws, and you're also gonna point out how I started coronavirus by doing this right here. So let me know. All right, so the upper control arm is all tightened down on both ends. I went ahead and put that bolt in here for this brake line, that 10 mil that's back in place. Both of our new ball joints now have grease in them. And we could go ahead and put the knuckle back on the car. Let me clean up this grease that's sitting here. Go ahead and spray the CV shaft, clean it up a little bit. Maybe even put some anti-seize on it. All right, let's grab our knuckle, set it in place. We got to put the CV shaft inside of the wheel bearing first. Look at that, like butter, slid right in. Okay, so the CV shaft doesn't want to fully go into the wheel bearing. It looks like there is more to go, but it's gotten hard to move. So I'm just gonna put the nut on it right here, and we'll use this to pull in the CV shaft, and hopefully everything goes okay. All right, so it did pull it in. As you can see, I loosened the nut just a little bit, backed it off, because we're actually gonna go ahead and torque it down so it's right and proper how it should be, so we get the most amount of life we can out of this wheel bearing. Let's go put the brand new nut on the lower ball joint. All right, that's plenty tight. It's not going anywhere. Now these things don't use cotter pins or anything to lock them in place. They just have nylock nuts, which I'm not a big fan of. That's why, get them nice and tight. Let's not forget about this little shield that goes underneath the knuckle. So I got the shield in place. So I looked at two different websites and they both pretty much say the same thing. They both say 100 foot-pounds for the front axle nut. That's not even a lot of force. So that tells me that it's super easy to over tighten this wheel bearing right here. So you got to be really careful with that. There we go. It's 100 foot-pounds. Let's try it again. And that's it. Doesn't take much. We are just about done here. I got the ABS wire ran where it's supposed to be, and it is plugged in up top. So that's it, guys. I'm gonna go ahead, pop this wheel on, and put the battery in it, and we'll take it out for a test drive. So even though the battery has been disconnected, I turned the engine on, and we still have our ABS light and traction light and all that stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull codes, see if I have to delete any codes, or if simply there's just another issue with the ABS system. So the three codes that we have are right here, and this is not going to focus because I'm using a GoPro, but we have a ABS pump motor supply low voltage, which is not an issue. That might just be from disconnecting the battery. Left front wheel speed comparative performance, and left front wheel speed sensor signal erratic. So that just all has to do with the left front wheel bearing that we just changed. So let's go ahead and clear these codes, and hopefully all these lights stay off for the traction and the ABS, because these are the only codes that we have. All right, so no luck. As soon as I clear the codes, that one for the front left wheel bearing goes away, but we still get the code for, let's see, what was it again? Oh, ABS pump motor supply low voltage. So the reason why we're getting this low voltage code is because a few days ago I removed the fuse for the ABS pump, and I forgot all about it until later on that day. I remembered about the fuse, plugged it in, and all the lights turned off. There was no ABS light, no more traction light, so all of this got taken care of. Alright, so far so good. It seems to be driving good. I don't hear any weird noises coming from that front left wheel bearing anymore. It seems to go down the road pretty straight, despite you know, replacing two upper control arms and two lower ball joints. Yeah, so I think this one's all set. It drives decent. I think the owner's gonna be happy with it. Before, with all the bad ball joints and the bad wheel bearing, the truck just felt like it was all over the road, and it was was really sketchy to drive. It feels solid now. It feels just how it should feel. I don't feel anything abnormal now. So yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed another one of these type of come along videos. So I'll catch you guys next time.